How pros value deals, the big insight. Now the next video gets a little mushy and I thank you for joining the course, but the first thing I want to do here with you now is build your confidence. I want to give you a bird's eye view of how some of the best investors in the world value real estate deals, value businesses, and value other investments. No more that back of the napkin, rough estimates, comp-based valuations. I want you to see how methodical a process can be when you value real estate deals. So let's get to it. For starters, pros only care about the profits. They don't care about square feet, number of units, gross rent multiplier, nada. It's just about the profits. Now we'll eventually start talking about in terms of cash flow, but not everybody knows what cash flow is. So if you don't have a real estate background or are self-taught, you probably know what profits are, but the word cash flow seems a little fuzzy. We'll go into great detail about what cash flow is later in this course. For now, we're talking about profits. In a real estate deal, and also in a business, profits come from two places. They come from operations, that's your income minus expenses, and whatever's left over is your profit from operations. When it comes to real estate, profits come from your rents minus your expenses equals whatever's left over are your profits. Now, profit from operations is where most investors stop, and they look at profit from operations just in one single year, which, as you'll see throughout the course, could be a big mistake. Because ultimately, you plan to operate the property for multiple years, and pros take the multiple years into account. And we'll get to an example really soon. Now, at the end of those multiple years, you're going to have an eventual sale. You're going to sell the property and get money for it, right? So you need to take those profits into account as well. What we're looking at here are the profits from the entire life cycle of the investment, from when you operate it year to year to when you sell it someday down the road. Another quick insight into pro investors, even if they plan to hold the property forever, they assume an eventual sale. And most professional investors don't forecast beyond 10 years. Even if they plan to own the property for 30 years, for analysis purposes, they'll assume a sale in 10 years. Few pro investors go beyond 10 years. And we'll get more into why that is later, but even at this early level, I want you to start encapsulating the entire life cycle of the investment. Looking at profit from operations and eventual sale in numbers, here's what that could look like. This example shows a 3-year hold period. You buy the property, own it for 3 years, sell it at the end of year 3. I chose 3 years because that's all that would legibly fit on my screen. You can see the profit from operations, and you see a little increase in that every year because you're probably going to be raising your rents a little bit every year. So we can reflect that here in this 3-year forecast. And then eventually down the road, you can sell the property. And in this example, you're estimating that you're going to sell the property for $400,000. And I should note that that $400,000 assumes all expenses are already taken out of that amount, like sales costs, brokerage fees, transfer taxes, etc. We'll talk about those things as well down the road. Let's just get this big insight done with, okay? So at the bottom are your total future profits for that 3-year hold period. And there's a big increase in year 3 because that's when you sell the property, right? So you collect profits from operations in year 1 and year 2. You collect profits from operations in year 3, but you also collect an eventual sale amount. Hence the numbers you see at the bottom and the very large number you see in year 3. So remember these 3 numbers at the bottom, ranging from $30,000 on the left to $434,000 on the right. We're going to come back to this. But first, let's talk about why you're investing in the first place. Why are you investing? Think about that for a moment. If you're like most people, you want a return on your investment. You want to invest some money now in the hopes that it increases over a period of time and you're better off in the future having made that investment. If you're not looking for a return on your money, this is the wrong course for you. I'm going to make the assumption you want a return on your money. And as you go about valuing a property, there are 2 things I want you to think about. 2 sentences I want you to repeat in your mind every time you go to value a property. And here they are. How much profit will the investment produce? Remember, we did that 3-year forecast. That's how much profit the investment will produce. And how much am I willing to pay for those profits? Think about that for a moment. You're forecasting 3 years of profits. Year 1, year 2, and year 3. How much are you willing to pay for those profits? This concept might sound a little mind-boggling, thinking about money paying for other money, right? Pay now for more money down the road. Actually, that works out perfectly. Pay money now for more money down the road. Perfect. I like that. I just made it up right now. But how do you determine how much to pay now? Well, that depends on the return you want. And the return you want drives how much you'd be willing to pay for those future profits. This is an important thing to understand, okay? Now, to understand how much you can pay for those future profits, you need to learn something else called the time value of money. And you already intuitively understand this. Don't let that weird finance jargon make you feel like you don't know what it is. You know this, and I'm going to show you why you know it. And I'm going to prove it to you that you already know it intuitively. Let's use a simple example of $1, and if we want a 10% return on our money each year over the next 3 years, what does that $1 have to grow to? Well, in year 1, that $1 has to have grown to $1.10. That $1.10 in year 1 includes the original dollar you invested plus your return, which is the 10 cents. Most of you probably understand that. And let's say you don't pull that $10 out that year. You leave that whole $10 invested. So as you leave year one and go into year two, you not only start with $1, you start out year two with $10. And at the end of 2 years, that dollar has grown to $1.21. And again, the reason for that is when you go from year one to year two, you're not starting out with $1, you're starting out with $10 because you got that 10-cent return at the end of the first year and you left all of it in the investment. So now, after 2 years, you have your original $1, you have your original 10-cent return, and then you have an additional 11 cents. And that additional 11 cents, if you want me to break it down for you, includes 10 cents on the original $1 invested, plus 1 cent on the 10 cents received in the prior year. And that equals 11 cents. So the increase from year one to year two was 11 cents, whereas the increase from year 0, or now, to year one was only 10 cents. You're getting a return on your return. You leave it invested, you get a return on it. And the return we're looking at is an annual return. This is called compounding. You may already know about compounding, but I'm going over it here because it's essential to understand the method of valuing properties we go over in this video and the remainder of the course. This is the essential ingredient. And then as you'd probably expect, if you left the $1.21 invested in year two and didn't pull anything out that year, you left it all invested, in year three, you'd have even more money. And in this case, $1.33 and 1/10 cent. I left the 1/10 cent in there because when you're dealing with return and numbers, you want to be precise. 1/10 cent might not seem like much now, but spread across hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of dollars, 1/10 cent really adds up fast. So if you put $1 in today, after a year, that dollar has to be worth $1.10 if you want a 10% return on your money. And if you leave it invested in year one and pull it out in year two, and you want to continue to get that 10% per year return on your money, that dollar has to have grown to $1.21. And in a similar manner, has to have grown to $1.33 and 1/10 cent in 3 years if you want that 10% annual return. This is called compounding, and pro investors love compounding. And you can see the power of it too. From year one to year two, it's an 11-cent increase. From year two to year three, it's a 13 1/10 cent increase. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. You're getting a return on your return on your return, compounding. And this concept is also why financial advisors tell you to invest early in your retirement and don't touch the money, because it just keeps accumulating more and more and more and more, and it creates this snowball effect. You put in $1 and in 3 years, it's 33% higher than it was. Okay, so that's enough about that. Let's turn this around, right? Let's not start with an investment amount and determine how much that has to be worth in each year. Let's start out with future money, future profits, and let us determine how much it's worth to us today. Back to our example, we have 3 years of profits in the future, and our goal is to come up with how much should we pay for them today? What are the future profits? How much am I willing to pay for them today? So let's go backwards from the scenario you see here where we start out with a defined amount. So let's say we were to receive $1 in 1 year. How much should you pay for that today? Well, what you can do to determine that is divide that $1 by the value of $1 today at the return you want. So it doesn't say it here, but we're using a 10% return, just like we did in the last slide. Let me just pop back here quickly so you can see this. Remember, year one, $1.10. Year two, $1.21. Year three, $1.33 and 1/10 cent. If you were to receive a future profit of $1 in 1 year, you divide that by how much $1 today has to be worth 1 year from now, which is $1.10. And the value today is 91 cents. We can pay 91 cents today if we're going to receive $1 in 1 year. And what that means is we can pay 91 cents today if we're going to receive $1 in 1 year. And if that scenario plays out that way, we pay 91 cents today and get $1 in 1 year, we get our 10% return. Now let's look at year two. If you're going to receive $1 in year two, to determine how much you can pay for that today, how much you can pay for that future profit and get your 10% return, we divide it by what $1 is worth in 2 years at a 10% return. And that is $1.21. You do the division and you can pay 83 cents today if you're going to receive $1 in 2 years. Do that and you get your 10% annual return. And moving on to year three, if you were to receive a future profit of $1 in 3 years, divide it by the value of $1 at whatever return you want, which is 10% here, dividing it by that $1.33 and 1/10 cent, you determine that you can pay 75 cents for each dollar you receive in 3 years. In essence, what we're doing here is valuing future money. Here's the money a couple years from now, or here's the money a year from now. How much am I willing to pay for that future money if I need or want to get a specific return on my money? It's how pros do it, everybody. It's how pros do it. And it's how you'll be doing it soon too. So let's back up to that profits example. Do you remember this? The bottom shows our future profits over the next 3 years. Well, we can take those future profits and divide them by the value of $1 in each of the years you receive those profits. So if you're getting $30,000 in year one from operations, you divide that by the $1.10 if you want a 10% return, and you determine that you can pay $27,273 for the money you receive in 1 year. And that'll get you a 10% return. Isn't that awesome? In year 2, you anticipate collecting $32,000 from operations. Divide that by the value of $1 2 years from now at a 10% return, and you determine that you can pay $26,446 today for that money you're going to receive in 2 years. You can pay $26,000 today for that $32,000 2 years from now. Beautiful, isn't it? So methodical, makes so much sense. And then in year 3, when you collect profits from operations and sell the property, which is why that's such a big number there, you divide that by the value of $1 3 years from now. And the result is $326,000. You can pay $326,071 today if you want a 10% return on your money, and in 3 years are going to walk away with $434,000. I mean, is anybody's mind blown here? Isn't this amazing? And the next thing we do is we take the value today at the bottom, because we took each year of profits and we extracted it back to how much we can pay for that year's profits today. So we have 3 years of profits, $3 amounts here, that we need to add up. And when we add the $27,000 to the $26,000 to the $326,000, we get $379,790. We can pay up to $379,790 if we want a 10% return on our money. If you pay more than this, you're going to get less than a 10% return. If you pay less than this, you're going to get more than a 10% return. And that's how pros do it, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what they call this? They call it discounted cash flow, and you just learned this. And you typically only use it in elite financial institutions. But you just learned it right here. You just learned it. You should feel great about that, because if you're a local investor, a self-taught investor, and if you don't regularly interact with high-level financial people, this stuff's going to be foreign to you and most of the people you interact with. Although it's not that hard, as we saw right here. We've just demystified a very serious financial concept and packaged it right here, and we went over it together. This was awesome. This was awesome. And before I leave you here and move on to the next lesson, I want you to know how much of a rock star you are now, because this formula right here shows exactly what you did. Now just think about if I led with, I'm going to teach you discounted cash flow, and look at this formula, we're going to learn how to use this formula. You probably would have turned this video off a long time ago. So you're welcome. And I hope your confidence is really high, because we're going to dive into some really cool stuff. And I want you to know that you can get this. You can do it. You can learn this stuff. You've already learned one of the most important concepts in finance. Everything else is just detail work. Great job, and I'll see you in the next lesson.